Hi. Oh my god, don't mind my finger. I just have lip stain on them. Anyway, today's video is about a really true and important topic, which is this idea that like our parents and grandparents are gonna pass one day. And I really want to talk about how unique this concept is in my head because of simply how I was raised. I want to talk about how, because not only am I Latina, which if you didn't know, a lot of Latinos already have this. Latinos talk about death a lot. It is something you honor. It is something, especially in maybe Central American countries, like especially Mexico, death is something that is, a part of life, and it is inevitable, and it is something that you respect and honor and face. I forget who first came up with the concept, but there's this concept that Latinos are like all on the same train, and at the end of the train is death. So instead of sitting there and crying the entire journey, they party. They bring musical instruments and food, and they just have the best time because they're all headed to the same place, basically. But I thought that was so true and so beautiful, and of Latinos, such a unique. I'm sure not the only culture to think of death in this way, but besides that, I want to lean more into the religious aspect. Growing up, we always talked about the afterlife. We always talked about, Latino parents often say the thing of culturally, they always say when I'm dead, what are you gonna do? When I'm dead, what's gonna happen? Just as punishment to kids who are misbehaving, what are you gonna do when I can't make breakfast for you, or when I can't pick you up? Are you gonna be late? Are you gonna do this? So it was just always talked about, especially with the kind of family I had. It was always talked about in, we talked about heaven, we talked about hell, we talked about afterlife, we talked about, praying before you die and asking for forgiveness before you die. And this death was always felt around the corner to me, always growing up. It just felt like, I always think about it like this, if I were to die tomorrow, I look back and I'm thinking, wow, I had the most beautiful life, and that's okay with me. And it always played in my head. It was such a real concept to me that it felt like it was happening all the time, despite having despite having grown up with no deaths in my family, no family members ever passing that were close to me. My grandparents did, but I didn't know them. I met them once when I was a kid, and that was it. So I just felt like I could feel it all the time. And I would always in middle school and high school sit in the shower and think about, how I would feel. Oh, excuse me. But it was truly a testament to how strong our brains are, because my head could take me to such a place where I receive such news or I witness such things, and it stays with me. And this is why I don't watch horror movies. This is why I don't watch gory things. This is part of the reason, but I retain so much, and it fuels imagination, and it fuels the simulation in my brain of that day. What will you do? What will you say? What will you feel? And the way that my brain is able, sometimes you can turn it off, but because you're in control of it, but the way that my brain can just simulate that feeling, that heart drop, stomach feeling, and it feels like practice. It feels like it feels like a virus shot. You get a little bit and you experience it. And maybe as a kid, I thought if I kept thinking about this and I can feel the idea, if I can kind of get accustomed to the feeling, then one, I think maybe two things happened. One, it gave me appreciation for life and appreciation for the people close to me all the time. Just always grateful, always cared about time spent with my family, and I'm lucky to have spent so much time with my family. But two, it put me in a constant state of fear, and I feel like that's where anxiety might have sprung. I definitely have my own theories about where my anxiety comes from, but that could be a tiny part of it. I just remember sitting in the clinic because I was sick, and them calling my mom and saying, okay, your mom said she's gonna be here in 5 minutes or so. And I know how far we are from the school. I know how long it takes to get to school. And if my mom had not shown up in a reasonable amount of time, my brain just went. She just kept going. And it was such a terrifying thing. This was so common for me. Each time I couldn't see my parents, I imagined myself as some sort of orphan, like little orphan Annie. I was just like, how does this feel? And as an adult, it's become more, it's become two things. It's become more stable in the sense that as a kid, you don't know what's going to happen to you. You don't know what family you'll end up with. You don't know which house you'll end up with. You don't know what's going to happen to you. But as an adult, you feel more stable because you have your own situation going on. But at the same time, as an adult, I truly, truly can understand it even more. And it's something that I always like. Sometimes I've gone months without seeing my parents, and I'll see them and I'll see like a drastic change, or I'll see a change in the hair color or a new wrinkle or something. And I'm just like, like my parents are getting older. Like my dad just celebrated his birthday this last weekend. And because I felt like he deserved it, I spent quite a bit of money on a hotel room just so that he can have a nice time. Like that's all I truly want. I think him and my mom deserve like the best of the best. And if this is what I wanted to give them, then that's fine. They deserve it. Like I'd give them every penny, and in my bank account. And just because I feel like they deserve it, they deserve to have nice things, especially the older they get. My parents really instilled in me, honor your father and mother, but although I do feel like that has something to do with it, it's definitely more of like, I see you and you're living life for the first time as well. That doesn't excuse like bad behavior or anything like that. It just means that I want you to have this because I love you, and you're I never really think of it as like paying back, like you taking care of me as a kid, because truthfully, like although I do feel that way about my dad, made quite a few mistakes in terms of how he went about things, and it just wasn't good. But that's the way I know I've forgiven him is the way I've treated him in the past year or so. And because there was a lot of things, but I just want, and he's apologized for things, which is amazing, but I just want the best for them. They deserve it. They deserve it. They took in my cousins who were twins and babies when they were 11 months old, and I was only probably a year and a half at that point, or maybe 2 years. Yeah, I was probably just 2 years old, and my sister was three or four. So like to have all these little babies running around because I don't know, they had it in them, and now those same cousins call them mom and dad to this day. It just means so much, like who they are. I look at them and I'm like, wow. And I think truly a big aspect of what was like, of everything is respect. Because the reason I started talking to my grandma about like, just recently, super recently, I'm like, my grandma's, very old. And I don't know her story. And I don't even know how to get it out of her, truthfully, because we haven't had a real conversation ever. So I started talking to her and I asked her about, just really boldly about her parents and grandparents, and she starts telling me these things that I didn't know. I learned that I have more Spanish in my blood than I thought. Thought it was just my grandpa, but apparently my grandma also has like, my grandpa is fully Spanish, but my grandma has like half a Spanish lineage, and I'm like, this is so much. But anyway, I started talking to her and I wanted to hear her story. I started talking to my aunt, and I'm talking to my parents constantly, trying to learn as much as I can. And it's a bit of like the fear thing. It's a bit of like, I'm scared. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Because I'm always crying, honestly. I'm always like, it's all the love, you cannot give. And I just need to give the love now, because I know that I've been doing that. And I'm proud of myself for that. And I have to just like be thankful for that. My brother told me recently, he said, thank you for taking care of like mom and dad. And he said it out of pure kindness, and it was so beautiful to hear. And I kept the tears back, so I'm glad. When I'm nervous, I start laughing. I'm like, But truly, it meant a lot to me, because I don't really even feel like I'm taking care of them. I just feel like I want to give them all the love, you know, and not feel like, you know, I have to wait till things are perfect, or do something else to like honor them and treat them well. You know, they can have it now. If I can do so, I'll do it. But yeah, it's been interesting hearing more about my family and getting close to them this past year. But I just want you to remind you guys to like hug your parents and hug your grandparents, because I'm always living that way. I'm always living in like, you know, tomorrow, what was not guaranteed for anyone. And it's not to say don't resolve issues, don't bring things up, don't ever clash. That's not realistic to life, right? It is just about being appreciative and showing the love now than later. And I cannot think of myself as the type of person who gives the flowers after the fact. You know, you have to praise and say the things in the moment, because then like I want my parents to know all the time how loved they are and how much they've done, and how much of a future I want them to have. And I'm keeping the tears back. I'm doing pretty well, guys, because you know I'm a crier. But yes, if you can, interview your parents. Who are they? What did they like when they were young? What brought their interest? What were their first jobs? Like, what did they learn when? And where have they traveled? Like, do you know, like, what trouble have they gotten into? Do you know about their grandparents, you know? Or their great-grandparents? Like, did they ever meet them? Did you ever meet them? Just ask them these questions. Like, there's a lot of, like, card games and stuff online that you can ask, like, a parent or grandparent to just kind of learn more about them. And it's really interesting getting different pieces of the puzzle from different family members. But with my parents specifically, especially in the last couple years or so, I've been really aware of, I feel like every moment I have with them is a gift, is bonus, because of what happened when I was 20, 21. I was in college. I don't know if you guys know this story, but I was in college. I won't tell the whole thing because maybe I should make a video about that. But I was in college, and my aunt and my cousin kind of knocked on our door because I was at home at the time, and so was my sister. And my parents were in Dominican Republic. They go like twice, 2 or 3 times a year. They go for a few weeks to a month at a time. And they knock on our door, they come over, and they ask us if we've heard. Like, do you know what's happened? I'm like, no. What's going on? Especially like this aunt in particular, like I wasn't particularly like close to at the time, which, you know, I want to change, but and I am. But yeah, it was very odd for her to come, and she kind of didn't say much besides your parents were in an accident. I'm going to show you a video from like the accident scene. They showed us a video that is burned into my brain about how horrific it was. Truly don't want, sorry, I got an email. Truly don't want anyone to like see their parents in that state ever. And what I ended up seeing was my dad being dragged out of a vehicle by like his arms. He looked like a dead body, it's all I can describe it as. And my mom, this really broke me. I don't want to say that because like, I'll talk about it in a second. I'll talk about how I felt in a second, but I'll tell you what the video had. I saw my mom being kind of like, I don't know what that tool is called. It's like a big tool. It's like a metal tool that like snaps things and breaks metal. And they used that tool to pull my mom out of the car. And she had blood running down her face like this. Like she had like maybe like cracked here and here. And I think she just kept asking, where's my dad? Like you could tell she wasn't like fully aware of her surroundings or what was happening, but she just kept asking, where's Rolando? Where's my husband, basically? And they pulled her out, and I immediately asked my aunt, where were they? And because there was people surrounding the vehicle, and the vehicles looked, I've said this before, but it's the best way I can describe it. The vehicle looked like it was Hulk smashed. Like, that's how I can describe it. It looked so bad and unrecognizable. It looked like a ball and it was a big car. It was a big vehicle. It was a, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about cars, but it was like an SUV type. But I asked my aunt what happened, like where are they now? And at that moment in time, they didn't know. They didn't know where they'd been taken. The hope was that they'd been taken to a hospital where my aunt worked, so that they could get treatment or whatever they needed. But they didn't have contact. Nobody knew the status. Nobody knew where they were. Nobody knew what was happening at the moment. My sister, in terms of feeling, my sister broke down. Like, she needed to be alone. She walked outside. She had her moment. She just cried and just like, you know, because it really felt like it was the end. Like, that was, oh, like, we had parents one time and now we don't. But I don't know what about me was so, like, so weird, so interesting, but like, I felt peace. I felt calm. Like, I say this sometimes, like, there's things that I just know. And I knew that not only did they survive, but they were fine. Like, I knew it. I was like, oh yeah, like inside. It's not something I thought. It was just something I knew. Like, I felt it. It was like breathing. Like, I just knew it. However, the video was so shocking to me, I think, like, my mom looked so hurt. And my dad, I didn't look great. And I just cried there in the room. And we did hear from them hours later. But I don't want to say it felt forced to cry. It definitely wasn't. I just knew that I was reacting to what I saw and not what I knew. Does that make sense? And a few hours later, we heard from them. They had gotten to the hospital and they were in surgery or in and out of surgery. They had to stay an extra month, or I don't know how much longer they had to stay. And talking and FaceTiming with my parents, we'd contemplated going over there, but FaceTiming with my parents was hard because my mom had lost like a lot of her front teeth. She was very bruised, like especially in the eye area. And she was sad. She just wanted to come home. And I remember her saying that and just making me cry. Her talking to my aunt and just saying, I want to come home, because Dominican Republic's not her country. It's my dad's country. But I'm sure she felt very alone. But my dad was her rock, was her steady. And in times of crisis, my dad can either do one of two things: freak out, or, you know, freak out in angry mode, or retreat into his like comedic self and becomes a jokester, becomes a class clown. And it truly is, like, I see myself in my dad so crazily. But I feel lucky that in times of crisis, I often become quiet and I become the rational thinker. Because it's in times of calm that my anxiety spikes and I start freaking out and I start trying to be like a class clown. That's when that happens for me. But when there's a real crisis, as an anxious person, you're kind of always expecting crisis. So when a real crisis occurs, I'm kind of like, not joyful, oh my God, but I catch myself, I don't want to say I'm smiley, but I catch myself like, I can breathe. It's so weird. It's like my anxiety has put me in such a state of freak out that when something actually happens, I feel validated. I feel like, okay, the thing has happened, or the thing is happening. I can breathe. I feel like I've assessed this situation a million times in my head. Let's see what we could do here. Let's be calm. And that's truly how I handle it. I'm sure that not every situation that I go through is going to be handled the same by me. I'm sure I'm going to have different reactions depending on what happens. But, I have literally sat in my car for like hours and cried because I'm like, one day my parents, my mom has this desire to go first, which is crazy. I told her this is selfish, but it's valid. It's a valid thing to want because she doesn't want to like suffer through, you know, seeing everyone else pass. And I 100% get that. And truthfully, that might be that's her desire, that's her wish. Because she's not like me. She doesn't think about those things. She like refuses to. My mom is the type of person to come when something's traumatic or hard, she compartmentalizes and puts that away. It's like not in the forefront of her brain, it's in the back of my brain. Well, for me, it's always in like the forefront. But yeah, I just really worry, and I think that it helps me in crisis because I'm always in crisis mode. But I say this all to because it helps me be thankful. It helps me be appreciative of the time that I have. It helps me love more and give the flowers now, and I love that. And it helps me honor. It helps me spend the time and ask the questions, because it's important to do that. Like, as much as life is happening, as much as careers are happening, as much as people are moving forward, like me, like, I don't know, as much as I love traveling and I go from place to place, it is so important for me to slow down with them and to like do the mundane things and enjoy it and savor it and like treat them well. And I know I've made mistakes just because I'm human, but like, I know that maybe I wasn't the kindest, or maybe I wasn't the most understanding, or maybe I wasn't the most patient. I do give myself a lot of credit for like handling things a certain way when things got tougher, but you know, and doing the best that I could. But there's always room for improvement, and I just, especially my mom, it really gets me, like, the type of person that she is. She deserves everything. If you've seen my Mom Is Not Real video, then you know the type of mom I have. She deserves everything in the whole world. I love her. And I love my dad. And I love my sister. And I love my brother. And I love my nephews. And I love my cousins. My aunts and my uncles and my grandparents. So that is all to say. Hug them. Talk to them if you can. Because things do change and relationships do change. I've seen it firsthand, not only in myself, but in others, in my own family. Things do, with like consistency and like faith and like work and like open-mindedness, mindset changes, things change and things get better, and people surprise you is all I can think to say. People surprise you, and I've seen that. So thank you so much. Please love the people that you love, and tell them often, and show them often, and give them their flowers often. Bye.